From Raw and Radical, this is On Display, a podcast about extraordinary women in the arts, their true stories and inspiration. I am Maureen Broadbeck, and every episode features a conversation with one great woman in the arts or music. There are dialogues about real-life challenges, exploring what it means to be a woman in creativity. Today we have a very special woman, someone that is so very generous and talented. She is a super versatile musician, a vocalist, a pianist, a keyboardist, a guitarist, a songwriter, producer, a band leader, an educator, and a mother. Hi, Adriana. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So you are originally from Vancouver, Canada, which I totally love because I lived there and I love it. You moved to LA in 2003. You toured the globe with Pink from 2003 to 2008, playing arenas and festivals in Dubai, South Africa, Australia, Europe, Japan, Russia, Iceland, everywhere. And after 5 years, you stopped to raise a family. You returned to join Pink again in 2017 in the beautiful Trauma Tour, where you did festival, promotion date, arena tours in North America, Europe, Australia. Mm-hmm. And you just finished for touring for what, the past 2 years almost?
Yeah, 2.5.
Excellent. And then I'm just going to add a couple of things because you played live in Wembley. This is huge.
Yeah.
You played all over Europe. You went to Australia. You went everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But then you also did many other things. You write music. You teach. You teach at Berklee online. You used to be in the voice department of Berklee College of Music.
In Boston, yeah.
In Boston. And now you teach also in LA.
Yeah, at the University of Southern California.
So, wow, all this.
I know.
And then you also played, on TV shows with David Letterman, Conan O'Brien, Good Morning America, etc. The Saturday Night Live.
Oh, my favorite.
Jimmy Kimmel, American Idol. Yay.
Yeah.
So have fun. How fun is all this?
It's pretty fun. I couldn't have written the story better myself.
So, you are known and you talk about being a lifelong learner and a passionate musician. You love to share music and ideas and everything. Can you tell me how important it is for you to stay open and keep learning? And I'm guessing that throughout all the different life, in a way, you have, being a mother, a teacher, a live performer, a musician, you have so much experience and you're learning all the time, right?
Yes.
So for me, that is such an important part of being an artist, to stay open and to learn. And it kind of opens connection to the world. And I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about your experience, especially the past, 2 years, now that you just finished touring with Pink.
Wow. Yeah, that's a very big question. I feel like I am open to learning pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
I am always looking for, not necessarily consciously looking, but open to people's opinions, people's ideas, meeting new people, sharing ideas, experiences, opinions, ways of doing things, ways of living. It's a very in the moment type of existence. And I say this a lot, and sometimes I learn from saying these things out loud, and I'm like, wow, I should really listen to myself. Because, I think we feel, it's so easy to feel stuck in whatever world you're in.
Yeah.
And feel like this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm always going to be doing, this is my lot in life, and look at all these other people that are doing cool things. I wish I could do cool things like that. It's so easy to do that.
For sure.
And it happens to me. It's like, you come off a big tour and then you come to your house and, you're doing things like every other human being, you know, cleaning the house or like going through piles of stuff or, you know, making a lunch for my kid, and I actually enjoy doing all those things after being on the road. But, you know, then you go, okay, now I'm not doing all these fabulous things. Now what am I going to do? Now what is my life going to be now? Now I could just come back and do the exact same things that I did before. But the funny thing is that I'm experiencing, like, literally now, and I'm speaking from my feelings right now, and I haven't even put these out there in the world yet, so I'm not sure what's going to come out. But the funny thing is that I feel like a different person after that 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like doing everything the same necessarily. I feel like I've grown. I feel like I have new things to offer. I feel like I might want to turn a new leaf or create a new avenue of expression or a new version of me. I definitely am a new version of me returning back from 2.5 years of touring. Mind you, that wasn't straight, but still, that whole experience as a mother, you know, it was so different than the first time around, because I toured with Pink from 2003 through 2008, and I was married, still am married, but no children. So that was a different experience. And honestly, when I left the tour, I'm digressing a little bit, but when I left the tour in 2008, you know, it wasn't like, okay, I'm going to have a kid, I'll see you when I'm ready to come back, because I really didn't know if I would ever be ready to come back. And I didn't know if they would find someone new and that person would be the perfect fit for the rest of, you know, rest of her career or until whenever, or who knows. You never know what direction people are going to go, and there was no way I could, you know, I didn't have that crystal ball to tell me. So I kind of assumed that, I guess my, you know, and never assume, but I assumed that, you know, I'm going to have a child. And so I made the decision that I'm going to stay home, because I know that, you know, at that point she didn't have children, and I had just come off a 22-month tour that was straight with, you know, breaks every 2-3 months for about 10 or 12 days. And I knew that I couldn't sustain that with a child. So that's like, you know, I want to be a mother and I want to be present. So I made the conscious decision of, you know, staying home and not touring. And I figured that my touring days were over.
Yeah.
People would ask me, oh, do you think you'll ever go back to touring? And I said, well, I don't know. You know, I was so in the motherhood moment that I was like, I really can't even think like that right yet. But, you know, yeah, I mean, and then I remember when I got hired at USC, my boss at the time said, do you think you'd ever go back if she'd ask you back? And I'm like, I don't know. You know, I didn't even really think it was going to be an option. So fast forward 9 years later, my replacement decided not to come back, and I got the gig. My son was 8.5 at the time. He's 10.5 now. And I felt like he was old enough for me to be able to go. And she also had 2 children, and I knew that the touring schedule and everything was going to be a different experience. And it just came at the right time for us financially. It was a great time to make more money.
Yeah.
When is it not? You know? So anyways, so this experience, I guess I'm coming back to your question, this experience of being out on the road as a mother, a wife, and having been at home for 9 years previous to that, it was such a different experience. And it had done a lot of things for me personally. One, given me the space to focus on me again, which, you know, as a mother, I think one of the pitfalls and maybe necessary elements is that mothers give completely and lose themselves in their parenting and find it hard to do things for themselves. So, man, it was amazing to go out. I remember the first, I don't know, trip I took out. I was like a puppy with my tail wagging, just going, I'll go anywhere. I don't care. Yeah, I'll go. Yeah. I was just
You're so
excited.
right. You're so right.
So excited to just be out on my own, just taking care of me and having one job and, you know, not, I've got to do, you know, my 2 teaching jobs, take care of my kid, my husband, my house, and whatever other things that I can put into that. It was, I'm out on the road. I am serving this tour, this artist, and this is what I have to do for me to be able to do that job. So that alone was pretty awesome to be able to simplify life. It's not that I didn't take care of my kid and my husband, but I really couldn't physically be there. I was still obviously involved, but I wasn't physically there in the day-to-day doing of things. So I did a lot of learning about myself and what it takes to support an artist like Pink. I knew she was amazing. I always knew that. But I had just left 9 years of primarily teaching, talking about, this performing thing that I loved, that I didn't do as much of anymore.
Yeah.
And I found myself being out there going, first of all, I had been teaching for so long, my whole mid-range voice and, the whole blend and the whole register, even if I haven't been singing, was so much better because I had been teaching it and I had to show people how to do it. So when I actually showed up on the gig, I was like, hey, I have a much better voice than I did when I was here last time.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Excellent.
That was cool. But I think one of the most important things that I learned was self-care.
Wow. That is an important subject.
Holy moly. Self-care. And I wasn't even planning to say that. That just came out. I haven't said that before. But I think that women have a tendency to take care of everything else and everybody else before themselves.
For sure.
And I learned a lot about myself and what I need. But I also learned from watching others, especially Pink.
Yeah.
Because she was, I'd never seen her on the road with a family. She took her entire family with her, husband, kids, nannies. And the funny thing is, you would think that the nanny situation, she'd just like have it easy and she could just kick her feet up. Well, that's not her style of parenting.
Yeah.
The nannies were there so that she could get her sleep, so she could do the acrobatics that she does safely and do her job. And so that, when she was working, it wasn't just her husband that was in charge of everybody all the time.
Yeah.
And just extra set of eyes when you're like moving all around the country. So, when she wasn't working, she was a mother.
Yeah.
And even when she was working, the kids were on stage during sound check. I mean, I learned so much about just being a woman, a mother, a performer, the self-care that it takes to keep it together.
Yeah. And this kind of almost all at once, right?
All at once.
Yeah.
Right. All at once. And, so I got myself to a point where, okay, I know what I need to do for myself in order to be able to get up on that stage for 2 hours and give completely, be completely vulnerable, trust in the moment, trust in my abilities, trust in my connection to the songs, the people on the stage, the people in the audience, just the moment, living in the moment. So I guess it's a balancing act. You can't really be in the moment at all times because there is, a schedule. Yeah. There's a touring schedule in life. There's a schedule for work and school and whatever it might be. So you have to be aware of that. But within that schedule, being in the moment of whatever it is that you need to do. So I had this amazing luxury this summer, and not just this summer, but throughout the tour of looking at a day and going, okay, the end result is getting on stage and giving my all for 2 hours. So how do I back that up and be ready for that?
Yeah.
And, so I think it's, there's so much more than I think people think. They're like, oh, you don't have to show up to the stage till, your show's at 9, so you get there at 8. No. It's like, it's a whole different story. I mean, we were playing stadiums and we left the hotels around anywhere between 12:30, 1:30. We'd show up at the venue around 2. Venues open their doors at 4:30, so our sound checks had to happen. And before that, we did our sound checks, and she would join and do hers, and anything that needed to be revised or changed, we had that 2-hour window.
Yeah.
And then you're at the venue because, when you're playing venues of 50,000 people, you're usually somewhere outside of a city. You can't go anywhere, and it's big, so you're not going to venture off site. So we were there for pretty much, 10-hour days, Yeah. And there's not, you have your spaces that you go to, and you're well taken care of with catering and everything. But they're long days, and the way our days were scheduled were really wonderful in the sense that, there was yoga that was scheduled. Sometimes it'd be circuit training.
Excellent.
Sometimes the band girls, if we only had a half an hour, we'd do some qigong with a video. We'd find a space and do qigong. The women in the band, I mean, the guys too, but I, hung out with the women in the dressing rooms, and, we would have our more time together. We would, we're all in the self-care. How do we take care of ourselves physically, emotionally, zone, and nutritionally. I mean, everybody's always talking about this stuff. So I learned so much from these other women that, coming home, I guess the biggest difference coming home is I realize the time that I need for myself, and I don't feel as guilty. I have a little bit of guilt because it's normal. I don't feel as guilty to take the time to do it because I know it makes me a better person, and it gives me more to offer my family, so.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that's really the biggest thing I learned was self-care. And one of the things, my friends, I want to say one more thing. I was talking to Jessie, the violinist, yesterday. We had lunch, and she said, all I've been doing today is, I went to the beach, I rode my bike. Some people think, oh, well, I did nothing. And one of my friends reminded me that, you're an artist. When you go and you write, or you've been on a tour for 3 months and you just get back, you have to refuel. And that is part of your work, to refuel,
absolutely,
to re-energize, to take care of your body so that you can do your job. So it is part of your job. So, during the tour on a day of a show, part of my job was, either going for a walk or exercising or, warming up or drinking a lot of water or being aware of some downtime, making sure I don't schedule every minute so that I'm not rushing and exhausted by the time I get to the gig, So it's a mindset, really.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out that balance and knowing that doing nothing is actually doing something. Yeah.
And something so important.
And, I did not learn that from my immigrant parents, let me tell you. It's all about doing.
Yeah.
So it's taken me a long time to get to that place to acknowledge that it's important, that's care.
I couldn't agree more. And there's like two things that really strike me is that I really like what you said about focusing on the most important things you have to do in your day, and then making sure that this thing is really supported.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we tend to forget this because we have so busy lives that we rushing through everything, and that making a priority or having priorities is so important, and how to really build around those. And the other thing I really liked is when you say that because you were a group of women talking about self-care, you were able to share. And I think this is what's missing so much in most people's life. People that don't tour and don't have a group of people, there's so many people that work by themselves and that are more isolated, and they don't have this way to share their experience and to grow from them. And I think we need really more, we all need more of this, right? To be able to really share. And like, how would you now translate this to your daily life? This self-care. Did you already think of that?
Yeah, I've been home for 2 weeks. I'll tell you how far I've gotten. Well, I got my hair done yesterday.
Good.
But I guess some of the things that are a little bit different is I feel like I'm trying to really be present for my family when they're here. And I was that way too in between tour stuff, but I learned it especially when I was away. It's like, I only have so much time with my family. And I look at my son, he's 10 and a half. And, honestly, we have possibly 8 more years, and that's going to go fast.
Yeah.
So I want to try to listen to every word that he says. And, even though he talks a lot and it's really easy to tune out because he can't stop. I wonder where he got that from. Anyways. I'm trying to be more present with that. I'm also, in terms of self-care, I'm trying to be realistic about my days and not stay up super late and cut into my sleep, which I was so guilty of. I think that's the biggest one. I realized on tour how important sleep is. And I had been doing like cutting out my sleep for years and years and years and years.
Yeah.
At least the 9 that I have been home.
Yeah.
You know, because my son, you know, would go to bed and then I'd hang out with my husband, then he'd be tired and he'd go to bed. And then I'd have, you know, I'd start my work and I'd be like, oh, this is awesome. And it is awesome. That time where you have alone.
Exactly.
You can do what you need to do.
Yeah.
And it is a very wonderful time, that time between, I don't know, 10, 11 to 1 or 2 in the morning. I would just get so much done. But then I would try to be awake for my family at 7. And if you do the math, that's like 5 or 6 hours of sleep. That is just not enough.
Yeah, agreed.
So as productive as I wasn't really the best version of myself, because with 5 hours sleep, you just can't be.
Yeah.
I realize now that you can't be, although I've somehow magically able to still accomplish things during those times. But I realize how much better I am when I sleep. And I know it's taken me forever to figure that out. And maybe some people figured that out much earlier, but that's me now. So I realized that, you know, yesterday I literally went to sleep at 9:30 and I was like, this is weird. So I read. I feel like I need to do something. So I read, but, and then I woke up at 7 and I'm like, I can't believe I slept that long. It's crazy. And I feel amazing. You know, life doesn't always allow you to do that, but I'm really trying to prioritize my sleep. And I, you know, probably won't be going to bed that early for much longer. Once I kind of get reconnected with my life, I'll probably be going to bed at least a couple hours later. But the fact that I'm taking the time to do that, and I had things I need to do, I still have things I need to do, but I'm prioritizing, I need to rest. I know there are things I need to get done, but my health is more important, and my attitude and my energy for the day is more important. So I think that's one thing that I've applied to my daily life here, is that I'm making sure that's happening. I'm also walking my child to school every day, although we are taking Wednesdays off, as requested by my child. And it's 1.5 miles in one direction. So I walk for an hour before I start my day. And, you know, there are a lot of things I could get done during that time. Yeah. However, I've decided that that's what I'm going to get done. I'm going to walk. And sometimes I think about all the things I'm going to do during the day or what's my priority. And sometimes I think about nothing. Yeah. And I just zone out. So I think those 2 things I've implemented. And I think those 2 things alone have just made me so much clearer in my seeing my world around me and seeing what the possibilities are and how I want to rebuild the structure of my day-to-day life now that I'm back home. Yeah. And how that day-to-day life is going to transpire into new career opportunities or directions. I'm always looking for like-minded people that are trying to, you know, bring this mission of, you know, living your life to the fullest. Yeah. You know, artist or not, you know, it doesn't really matter. It's just absolutely, you know, finding the joy in life, whatever your joy is, you know, finding the people that bring you joy, finding the thoughts that bring you joy, really seeing the good, bringing the vibration of this planet, which is challenged at this time, you know, countries, people, the planet, just everything. Doing your part to, you know, without sounding too California, raise the vibrations of people and humanity. And I feel like, you know, the tour alone, that was our mission. You know, Alicia Pink would say at every prayer circle, which we did before every show, you know, asking for, you know, help us bring light and joy to the people that are here and help them, you know, bring that light out to the world. Just that's our job. Help us be the best light workers that we are. And I think realizing that what you say and what you think and what you do matters. Completely. Yeah. No matter artist or not. I mean, artists, we're lucky we have that. Artists and teachers and parents, you know, we have that opportunity to share through music, through conversation, through our art, our visions, our feelings, our humanity. Whereas others have to keep it inside and maybe don't get a chance to work it out. We have an opportunity to do that for ourselves and others, and to celebrate that and to realize how important that job is.
Yep.
And it's taken me a lifetime, honestly, to get to these words. They don't just pop out at the age 20.
Yeah.
They just don't. My husband and I still joke. My mom would say, "Don't dream too much."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course.
Don't dream too much. You got to be practical.
Yeah.
You have to take every job, take everything, and it's like, no, I have to take the things that are right. And, and I mean, it comes with the package of being a first generation, Canadian, immigrant parents that came to Canada, didn't speak the language, and had to make a life. And their story is very different.
Of course.
Their story is amazing, and it's a successful story despite, what they may say or think. But, I can't live their story. So it's taken me a while to figure out my story. And let me tell you, I couldn't have written it better. I said that earlier. When I look at what I've done, I mean, honestly, it's a dream.
Excellent. I mean, yay.
Yeah. Yay me, right?
Adriana, you have such energy, and you always on the positive side. And I think you really, truly carry that energy around you. And how do you keep it up? Because there's probably times where you cannot be always positive, right? But you seem to have this capacity to go back to this positivity and enthusiasm, maybe in an easier way than other people, or maybe you have a trick, or you seem to be really positive a lot.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. And look, I'm not always positive. I have my moments just like every other human. And I have my struggles and how come I'm not doing better at this, or how come, so-and-so doesn't like me, or how come, I don't feel like I'm good enough at this or that, or, any of those kind of crazy things. Those things come and they happen, and I deal with them, and I'm just as human as anybody else. And I get frustrated with my husband and my kid, and, it's normal. But I'm really trying to become more, trying to keep my mind open in the sense of the reasons why people say or do or choose or are the way they are, and understand that everyone's on their own path. And it doesn't mean that it's, if someone says or certain things happen that you don't like happen, you might say happen to you. This has happened to me. And you have a pity party, I think, and I've been reminded of this, by the way, by many of my colleagues and friends, not directly, but indirectly. I've been listening to these things, and everyone's on their path. Everyone's doing the best they can. And sometimes things will come at you that you're like, wow, that hurts, or I feel this way, or I'm mad about that. I'm really trying my best to not let it enter my existence. And it's hard. I don't have a thick skin. I remember when I was younger, you develop a thicker skin. I'm like, but I don't have a thick skin. I just don't. I'm really sensitive. I'm sensitive when people say something. I take it personally, and I'm a people pleaser. I want everyone to like me, and that's just who I am. And so I'm just really working hard at doing the best at who I am and trusting. And I think that, you said, how do you do all these things? How do you sustain the positivity? I'm working on it right now. I mean, how do you sustain the trust that things are going to be, fine? Like, I came off a tour and, I'll be honest, we get treated really well. We get paid well, but I can't retire. You know what I mean? I live in LA. Things are expensive here. I have a child. I have a house to pay for. So I have to keep working. And as you know, being a teacher, It's not like the most lucrative career choice, but I love it. I love it. I enjoy it. I go there and I don't really look at my bank account. I just do what I do and I have a good time. And then when I have to pay bills, I'm like,
Yep.
Yeah. So I have the same challenges that everybody else does, even though it may look like on paper that, I just must be sitting by my pool, sipping my margarita. But I don't have a pool and I'm not sipping my margarita, although I would like to. And I'd like to have a pool, but I don't know, maybe too much work. I'll go to my friend's pool. But I think that it's about trusting that. And I say this to everyone, and I'm trying to say it to myself. It's harder to say to yourself than it is to everybody else. But trusting that what I do matters, trusting that my work and my efforts and I will result in being taken care of. And somehow, if you look at my story, somehow it works out.
It works out, absolutely.
And if you believe in God, then you can thank God. If you believe in something else, then thank that something else. If you just are lucky, you think you're lucky, then be thankful.
Yeah.
But I think it comes down to being thankful, gratitude, in the moment and present for all of it. As we get older, we know, we lose friends and family members, and we know we're not here forever. And so we got to make the best of this time and, do what you love. Be happy. Don't be miserable. Make choices that are hard, but they're because it's what you have to do. I made there's some pivotal moments, choices that I made. One was I left Vancouver and moved to Boston. And I was, a very overprotected only child of immigrant Eastern European parents. So just picture that.
Yep.
Great parents, but, very protective. And so for me to move that far away was a blow to them, right? So I disappointed them. I told them I'd be coming back, but of course I didn't. So that was a huge move for me to leave. And I had education. I could have gotten a teaching job. I was in a relationship with a guy for like 6 years. We were supposed to get married. I just decided I needed to leave my house and live on my own. And that was a big risk. I didn't know anybody there.
Yeah.
I went to go to Berkeley. So that was a big one. And that turned into a whole chapter in Boston, a 9-year chapter. Isn't that funny? 9 years seems to be a common number to write a song about that. 9 years in Boston. That was a chapter that was an amazingly transformative time for me. There's so many things that happened during that time.
Yeah.
I grew as a human. I grew as a musician. I played a ton. I learned a ton musically. I met my husband. I got married. I ended up teaching at Berkeley. It was my first teaching job there in a college. So many great things. I started being an artist there, recorded my own music. There's just so many things. And then, the second big thing that was a very scary choice was I had a full-time job teaching at Berkeley, gigging on the weekends, doing my own artist stuff. My husband was doing similar stuff. He's a musician. And we decided that before we turned old and resentful that we wanted to do something in the music industry. We were already starting to get old and resentful because even though we weren't old, but all our students were playing all these cool gigs, and it's like, well, because we were the teachers and the profs, it's like we didn't fit in that Boston Beantown college, demographic. So we're like, we need to get out of here so we can feel young again. So we did. We moved to LA.
Excellent. Yeah, of course.
But that was a big, huge risk.
Yeah. And you had faith again. Yeah.
We left our jobs. I remember crying at the Starbucks in Atwater Village. I'll never forget it. We were looking for housing, right? And I'm like, because I've always been, the daughter of an immigrant family, have to have a job, have to have that steady paycheck. And I had never just been a freelance musician or a freelance art. And it scared the the daylights out of me. I was just crying. How are we going to pay for our rent? I don't have a job. I don't know what we're doing. Are we crazy? You know?
Yep.
And I had other friends that were like kind of smiling at me, like, you're going to be fine. It'll be okay. I was like, I don't know. My husband going, you know, do we take this apartment for $1,200 in Venice Beach, or do we go live in Studio City for $900? It's like $300 difference.
Yeah.
We don't even have a job.
Yeah.
But we took the $1,200 apartment in Venice Beach, and let me tell you, how happy am I that we did that?
Yeah.
But anyways, my point is that was the other huge, you know, leap of faith.
Yeah,
and, you know, 8 months later, I had an audition for the Pink gig, and that changed my life. So, and, you know, the next leap of faith is having a child and leaving all that. I left all the touring, all that.
Yep.
Again, to have a child. I sat holding my child, watching Ellen with my Pink doing So What with a new person in my spot going,
yeah. And you're back.
And I'm back.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I don't know. It's you know, it's a lot, and but it's exciting. And how do I keep the positivity going? Well, it's worked out somehow in the past, and I'm hoping it's going to continue. And if I can just keep, you know, there's something to be said for, you know, if you want something, then you got to keep it. It's kind of like, you know, I know The Secret. People have, that was one of the first places I saw that, you know, that movie, The Secret.
Yep.
If you want something, you kind of have to think about it and make that choice.
Yeah.
If you start thinking like, oh, I'm no good and pity party, well, you're not really going to attract anybody to you being that way.
Yeah,
right?
Of course. Of course.
You kind of got to be what you want to be, and then, you know, the opportunities are come. And it sounds kind of too easy to be true, but it takes patience, and sometimes it takes time, and sometimes you have to figure stuff out that's really difficult. And
and it takes courage, right?
And it takes courage, you know.
Yeah.
And you know what? It takes doing things that are not expected of you, and it takes doing things differently from the norm, or from,
absolutely,
especially as artists. You know, if you know, I had to work so hard against the upbringing of my family, and look, they're wonderful parents, and their story is a success story, but I couldn't follow their story. I had to break the rules. I had to do things completely different, and I had to disappoint them.
Yeah.
So as a people pleaser, that was really hard.
Yeah,
and then
of course.
And I had to rebuild what I thought was important to make me happy.
For you, yeah. What was important for you?
And that was not a part of my, you know, upbringing. It was about do this for me. And it's like, I think as a parent now, I'm like, what? I look at my son, and I don't want him to do it because of me. I want you to do doing because of you. I want you to be happy. Does that make you happy? You know, so it changes a lot. And how do I keep positive? I'll tell you, I really, these days, I continue to look for inspiration in books, in podcasts, in people, in projects, in music, just in my community. I just really look for those things that are making a difference, and I want to be a part of that. And in my day-to-day, I'm trying to do things that set me up for a positive outlook, like that walk in the morning. The other day, I did Qigong with my husband for the first time, and that was a really positive thing for our relationship, you know, something that we could do together. It was 20 minutes, you know. It's small, but it's big. Exactly. Yeah. It's learning about your defaults, the things that, you know, we all have our things that we do that get us in a rut, and learning about yourself enough to know that I can't keep doing that, because that's going to just end up over there, and I don't want to be over there. Yeah, and consciously choose, you know, how to help yourself and what can help yourself, and try new things to help yourself. Yeah, I think one of the things I'm going to learn how to do is to stop thinking as much too. That's good. I like that one. I told told me something. Okay, and then I'm going to let you ask a question. But someone told me something the other day. Man, I've been getting a lot of information. I guess I need it. But one of my friends, she went to a workshop with her husband. It was a relationship workshop about men and women. And this was awesome. And I hope I get this right. But she said, men and women are different. And men sometimes, like women are always thinking. Women are always coming up with ideas, right? They're always on the move. Men have a box where sometimes this box is completely empty. And there's nothing in it. And they go to that box and they'll do absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and they're totally okay with it. And they can flatline.
And that's what they do. And it's okay. And it needs to be understood because it is a part of how men think or whatever you want to call it. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's puzzling.
It is, because we don't have that.
No.
So I'm trying to learn from that. I'm going to try and create my box of nothing.
Yeah, good job.
I try that for like 5 minutes on my walk and like stop thinking, just move.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So you teach, and you said in an interview that you try to bring the best out of everybody. And that, of course, implies that everybody has something really good to give and to give to the world and to share. And I really believe in that. And I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about that, because you said that it brings more energy and more stamina, and it brings you more choice in life to really follow your heart, really, and follow your desires and follow who you are, basically.
I think it's much easier to be authentic in a consistent manner than try to be something else for other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think as young people, I teach my Berkeley online class that I teach is older people, that are not in their 20s usually, although there are some younger people. But it doesn't really matter. I think the younger people are just, have had less time on the planet, so it's easier for them at that stage to just want to please and fit in, and I think that's part of their journey.
Yeah. At
the same time, I think it's important for them to hear that, there is something special and unique about you that you want to explore and discover, because that's what's going to set you apart.
Yeah.
You can think about the, let's think about the marketing. How can we market you so that you're different? You could go that route, but as the artist, let someone else do that. I think, and maybe at the beginning as an artist, you kind of have to do your own marketing. And I think that's one of the hardest things ever. I think it's nice to have teachers or people around you that can say, you know what, this is what I really like about you, or this is what really stands out about you. And don't let people take that away from you, because it's just so funny. I remember some specific people in my experience at Berkeley when I was a student there. And even when I was a teacher there, there was people that were amazing, that had a great talent, but thought they could just rest on that talent alone and never developed or added on to it. You know what I mean? Or kept growing. And they thought they could just rest on those laurels for the rest of their careers. And they didn't get as far as some of the people who had like a third of the talent, but really worked hard. There are people that, had like zero. I remember there was a singer specifically who was not very talented, but he was an amazing songwriter. And he created such an amazing career for himself. And people would be like, oh, he's horrible. But he wasn't horrible. Singing wasn't his thing. But the writing, it's just, you know what I'm saying? So, or there's aspects that you're just different, and different is awesome. And I think that we need to embrace who we are and our faults and everything. I mean, I have my faults. I know them, and I'm working on them, I think as artists, I think we want to embrace all of who we are. And I think that's when we get to, write a song about the things that we are and the things that we deal with, and we realize that, hey, there's a whole bunch of other people that feel the same way.
Yeah.
And that's what brings people together.
That's how we resonate with each other. And I feel like when you keep learning and you keep growing, you also keep being in the movement of life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't stop, because if you don't keep moving, you just stop and then you stagnate. And when you keep moving and growing and evolving, you discover new doors, new paths, new ways, I mean, this is what makes life so interesting, I think, right?
Exactly.
And so incredibly amazing. And there's so much mysteries, so many mysteries around life and people and everything. I'm very passionate about the subject of how much more can I discover about who I am and what's, a part of my personality maybe I don't know, or something I don't know.
I love that.
I don't know.
I love that. That's the kind of stuff that really excites me too.
You see?
It's like, what can I do in this next chapter that's different, that's going to excite me, that can pull together all my experiences, but be something new? What can I do? What does the world need?
Yeah. And then if you don't try or question yourself, man, you're going to live a life where you never know your potential. You don't know who you could be.
Yeah. Like, if you would have asked me at the age of 25, when I left Vancouver, which was kind of late to move to Boston, that I would be on tour. Like, do you think you could be on tour with Pink, touring the world and playing for stadiums? I'd be like, that would be cool, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
I'm sure that back there, if you would have asked that person, I would have been like, there's no way I could do that. I mean, maybe, but like maybe there would be a little hint, but I would have never known that.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no way. I mean, I remember back then I saw people on TV doing all these cool things. I love popular music. I love all kinds of contemporary music. And I was like, okay, I live in Vancouver. I don't see any of this. I don't know who these people are, where they are on the planet, but I need to figure this out.
Yeah.
Because they're not here. Somehow I went to Boston. They weren't there either, but there was a lot of people that ended up there. That was my network of people. And that was that was a really great petri dish, for me to kind of grow and explore and experiment and meet the people that are doing the things that I love. Yeah. Like we all grew together, that network of people.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
So, I mean, it came from that small little speck of where are those people? I couldn't have imagined, I remember, hearing about auditions for different things, but even in Boston, there weren't any auditions there. I didn't know about the industry. I felt like we really had to move to get more connected to it. And that took a while. And I'm glad I had that Boston chapter to do what I did and meet my husband and grow into, the person I needed to be. But I could have never really grasped the idea of what I've been doing this past 2.5 years at the age of 25.
Of course.
There's some girls, there's a couple dancers on our tour that are turned 21 or 20. I look at them and I'm like, you are amazing. Look at where you are and how old you are. Yeah. You are amazing that you have come to this place at this point in your life. It's just so exciting. Yeah. But I could not have been doing that at that point. So it took me a lot longer to figure it all out. But, along the way, I gathered up some other stories and experiences and things. So,
of course,
all adds up to a fun and exciting adventure. But, it's very interesting. Everybody has their own path.
Yeah. And the timeline doesn't really matter, right?
Not really.
I mean, society tells us to think that timeline doesn't matter and time doesn't matter. What we can do and not do before, after 30,
Isn't
40,
that crazy?
Whatever. It is crazy. I think it's crazy. And I hear it maybe not every day, but I hear it from people I know. Oh, after 40, you don't dream.
What?
Or maybe after 30, you don't dream. You don't do this. You don't change the status quo. You don't, And I think it's very hard for artists that are not well surrounded to,
Yes.
to have that kind of social pressure and keep doing it.
Yes.
And that's why I think it's so important to share this thing on the talk to each other that way. And I was wondering if you can tell us a last word about the power of collaborations, because you just collaborated on something really big.
Yeah.
And so it was the Beautiful Trauma Tour.
Uh-huh.
And this was a big show. I saw you in Zurich. Mm-hmm. So I came to Zurich and saw the concert. It was a really big show in a full stadium. And to pull all this together, you need to have this collaboration, right? And I think collaborations are so important. How do you see it?
Wow. Yeah. It's like that tour, I can't say enough good things about it. And it really comes from the top down, like any good business.
Yep.
It's top down. And she, has chosen the people around her, the immediate people on the stage, but also, the people in management, the people in production. Everybody, has worked with her for years, and the people that are there are the best in their game. And if they're not good at what they do, they don't last.
Yeah.
If they don't bring a positive attitude or love what they do or bring joy to the gig, it's like they're not there for long.
Makes sense.
You know what I'm saying? Because everybody there is the best at what they do, or 100%, committed.
Yep.
And so that is the only way something like that gets pulled off, because there were 250 people traveling for the stadium tour. It was less for the arena tour, about half. But for the arena tour, 250.
That's a lot.
Yeah. She flies through the air, on a wire above the crowd. You saw it. There are videos, there's pyro, there's dancers, there's, everything, right? It's a big endeavor, and everybody has to rock it every night.
Yeah.
To the best of your ability, as you mentioned earlier. we do the best we can with what we have every day, but somehow that best we can translates into a great show, So collaboration is it's the whole thing. I mean, you show up. I think that's another place you asked me about how I keep my positivity. I mean, that's part of our job on tour, is to show up. It's like, you don't have to be happy every day, but if you're not feeling up to it, you don't want to make everybody else, you can't just show up and be crabby at everybody. You know what I mean? Because that's just not going to work.
Yeah.
You have to figure out how to keep it together, even when you're dealing with stuff like, and life happens while we're on the road. It's not like every day's, roses and sunshine.
Yeah.
Stuff happens, people deal with all sorts of stuff. But collaboration is really, and maybe even more important, communication.
Yeah.
The communication between all those people and all those moving parts is essential. And I think, for me, the best example of collaboration is the tour. And there's a couple things. One, the tour. I'm so grateful that my child was able to come out and see this.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's the best example of teamwork and collaboration that I've experienced in my life.
I bet.
No colleges work to that efficient level.
Yeah.
No, governments definitely don't work to that level. Yeah. Learn. I don't know. Maybe you need a dictator. Let's not go there. No, she's not a dictator. She's awesome. What's great about her is that she's chosen all these people, and she trusts in all these people to bring their expertise to the table.
Yeah.
And everybody cares enough about her and this performance and making it an amazing experience that we just bring the best we can every time.
Excellent.
So there's something really amazing about that. So I'm grateful that my family, especially my son, was able to see that work in progress. He would come and see sound checks. He'd see the show. During the show, he'd be under the stage watching it all happen. So that's amazing. And then the other collaborative element that is just still resonating and alive in my heart is the feeling that I have when we're all on stage together.
Yeah.
When we play a song together, like River, Bishop Briggs, that song is so intense and so amazing. I love a lot of her songs. Try is one of the ones that I love as well. One of my favorites. But, when we're feeling that groove, when we're feeling those words, when we're feeling the intensity and the message of that song, it's just like we are one unit. It's like our 8 bodies, or 9, I can't even remember. I should know the number, but whatever. All of us in the band, including her, are like one.
Yeah. So it's not only collaboration, but it's sharing, right?
Yeah, and it's not even sharing. It's like this weird thing, like, when you put oil beads together and they just become one big oil bead. It's like that. That's what it feels like. And we're all present and we're all the most of what we can be. And it is so powerful.
Yeah. Excellent.
I wish, and I said this to a group on tour, a group of the gals. We had a little gal hang. And I said, you know what? One of my hopes, my intentions, it was a new moon party. A new moon party. Yes, we do. We have some of these out there. And one of my intentions for the new moon was, when I return home, to be able to bring that that passion, that fire, that torch, that energy that I feel on stage, and to be able to bring it to the other aspects of my life and the other communities.
Yeah, this is great.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
I hope I succeed.
You will. You will. Of course.
I'll call you on one of my bad days, okay? Lauren, you said I could do this.
Excellent. Wow. Thank you so much, Adriana, for sharing all of this.
Of course.
This has been wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you for having this podcast and bringing, like minds and inspiring minds and humans together. Appreciate your work.
Thanks. Do you have one last word for women that are creating, that want to create, that start their career or are in the middle of their career? Anything you want to say to them for them to always keep going? And
just trust in your passion.
Yeah.
Trust in your passion and know that what you have to say matters.
Yeah.
It matters.
It matters. Yeah, that's true. It matters. Every story is unique. Every story is worth saying and talking about. Yeah, totally. Wow, thanks so much, Adriana. This is really, really cool. And it's also really cool to have you just after your amazing experience. And
thank you.
Fresh from it.
Yeah, it's been a real blessing, an amazing blessing. And I'm fortunate to have had that experience.
On Display is produced by Raw and Radical, an inspirational movement, resource and community for women who want to be creative and live a creative life. You can find out more about the artists on this series by going to rawradical.com. If you enjoy what you've heard, please leave us a comment and a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. It truly helps other people discover the show. Please visit us and subscribe to our newsletter to get updates and more goodies. I am Maureen Brodbeck. Thanks for listening.